In the far darkness of the 41st millennium, there are few things left that can be called beautiful. Among the endless wars, the ashen skies, and the oceans of bone dust that once were worlds, beauty has become something fragile, something nearly extinct. And yet, in that same darkness, the blood angels still endure. They are warriors, yes, but also poets, sculptors, and dreamers who remember what it meant to be human. They are the sons of a fallen angel, the last remnant of a dream born 10,000 years ago, a dream of perfection that shattered in blood and sorrow. And so tonight, as the stars grow dim and the Emperor's light flickers across a dying galaxy, we will remember them, slowly, quietly, the red angels of Baal. Baal, the name itself tastes of dust and ruin. It is not a world of beauty, though its sons are beautiful beyond mortal measure. It is a scorched world, twin moons circling a dying star, its surface blasted by radiation storms and the ghosts of ancient wars. Long before the Imperium reached the stars, Baal was already dying, its sands poisoned, its seas gone to vapor, its skies clouded by the fallout of forgotten weapons. And yet, in that wasteland, something divine was born. To understand the blood angels, one must first understand that they are the reflection of their father, and their father was Sanguinius, the angel of the Emperor, the golden-winged Primarch whose death still echoes across eternity. He was beauty made flesh, a being whose presence inspired both awe and sorrow. Where his brothers were titans of iron, Sanguinius was a vision, a creature of light, tragic and pure. He walked among mortals like a living myth, radiant wings unfurled, voice soft as a hymn. But behind that beauty was a grief too vast for words, a foreknowledge of his own doom that never left his heart. When the angel came to Baal, he did not find paradise. He found a nightmare. Tribes of half-mutants roamed the red deserts, fighting for scraps of flesh and clean water. The air shimmered with toxins, the ground was bone and rust, but where others would see death, Sanguinius saw life clinging stubbornly to existence. He descended upon the tribes not as a conqueror, but as a savior. His wings gleamed in the dim light, and the scavengers fell to their knees in reverence, thinking him a god descended from the heavens. Perhaps in a way, he was. He taught them unity. He taught them mercy. He turned their blades away from each other and toward the horizon, whispering that beyond the poisoned skies there were greater worlds and that mankind had once walked among the stars. Under his rule, Baal Secundus and the dead moon bloomed once again with the faint spark of civilization. And when at last the emperor came to claim his lost son, he found not a savage but a prince of a dead world, surrounded by men who worshipped him with tears in their eyes. The reunion of the emperor and Sanguinius was said to be unlike any other. The other Primarchs had met their father as rivals, soldiers, or proud kings. But Sanguinius, he knelt, and the emperor wept. Two divine beings bound by destiny, both aware that their bond would end in tragedy. And so the 9th Legion, the broken, blood-stained host of the Great Crusade, found their redemption. For before the angel came, the 9th were not the noble warriors they would become. They were beasts, used for exterminations, sent to burn worlds too vile for others to cleanse. Their gene seed had begun to twist, their minds scarred by mutation and despair. They were hated, feared, and whispered of as the Blood Legion, half mad, half damned. But when Sanguinius walked among them, something changed. He did not see monsters. He saw sons. He spoke their names, touched their foreheads, and told them they were still human. And somehow, impossibly, they believed him. From that day forward, they were the Blood Angels. They painted their armor crimson to honor the blood they had spilled and the blood they would yet give for the Emperor. They became not destroyers, but redeemers, the first to descend from the heavens on wings of fire, bringing both death and deliverance. When their jump packs roared, it was said that even demons paused to listen, for they came not as men, but as avenging seraphs. Their father's teachings were simple: fight with honor, die with grace, and never forget the beauty of what you defend. Even amid the cruelty of the Great Crusade, the Blood Angels would take time to rebuild what they destroyed. They sculpted statues for the fallen. They sang hymns to the void before battle. They wrote poetry on the walls of burned citadels, verses that began with, "For those we loved, we fight again." They were warriors, yes, but warriors who remembered art, music, and mercy. But within that grace was the seed of their curse. Sanguinius knew it, though he never spoke of it aloud. He could feel the darkness in his sons' hearts, the thirst that sometimes rose unbidden in battle, the hunger for the blood of the slain. It was not madness, not yet, but it was the echo of something ancient, something tied to the warp. He feared it would grow. He feared it would one day consume them all. And still he smiled and led them to glory. When the Great Crusade ended, the galaxy was nearly united beneath the Emperor's light. Humanity, fractured for millennia, now stretched across the stars again. But behind the triumph there was unease, for the warp was stirring and brother would soon turn against brother. Sanguinius the angel saw it in his dreams. He told no one. Some say he had already seen the vision of his own death. His golden wings broken, his lifeblood spilled at the feet of the War Master Horus. And still, he marched beside him as a friend. This then is the essence of the Blood Angels' tragedy. They are a legion born of beauty and doomed by it. Every act of creation they attempt is shadowed by destruction. Every victory leaves them more hollow. They stand upon a blade's edge, one wing in the light, the other in darkness. And through it all, they continue to fight, not for conquest, but for memory, for the memory of their father, for the dream that once was. And so, when you see them upon the field of war, those red-armored angels descending through smoke and fire, know that they are not merely soldiers. They are ghosts of a time when humanity still believed in grace. Their chainswords sing like choirs. Their eyes glow with both fury and sorrow. And when the battle is done, they kneel among the dead and whisper prayers that no one else remembers. The Blood Angels endure because they must. Because to cease fighting would mean to forget Sanguinius. Because even as the galaxy burns, someone must still believe that beauty is worth dying for. Before there was the Imperium, before the roar of 1,000 fleets filled the void, there was only the quiet will of the Emperor reaching out across the stars to find his lost sons. Each of the 20 Primarchs was a seed of perfection, shaped by his own hand, beings meant to embody the highest virtues of mankind. But the warp is never still, and the Chaos Gods, jealous and cunning, reached into the Emperor's vaults and scattered his children to the far corners of the galaxy. Some fell upon worlds of ice, others upon planets of empire or ruin, and one fell upon Baal Secundus, a dead moon that should have known no life at all. In those days, Baal Secundus was a grave. The sun that warmed it had grown old and sullen. Its winds carried the sting of radiation. Its oceans had boiled away long ago. Tribes of men huddled in the remains of ancient manufactoria, sheltering from the storms and feeding on whatever they could catch or scavenge. They were half mutant, their skin pale and pitted, their bones twisted by generations of exposure. The sky above them shimmered with ghost light, the colors of lingering fallout that never truly faded. And through that haze, one day, a star fell. The people of Baal saw it as an omen. They watched it burn across the heavens and crash into the red desert beyond the mountains, trailing a long wound of smoke. For weeks they argued over what it meant, a curse, a gift, or perhaps the sign of a god's anger. When at last they went to investigate, they found a crater filled not with fire but with light. At its heart lay an infant wrapped in golden cloth, untouched by ash or heat. and the child had wings. It is said the tribes trembled at the sight of him. Some fled, calling him a demon. Others fell to their knees and wept, unable to speak. For his wings were white and perfect, and when he opened his eyes, the wasteland seemed to grow still. They took him in, though none dared to name him. He grew quickly, faster than any mortal child, and his beauty only deepened with each passing day. They began to call him Sanguinius, the blooded one. For even as a child, his skin bore faint traces of crimson beneath the light, as though the sun itself burned through his veins. He learned the ways of his people, and the hunt, the art of scavenging, the rituals of survival. But he also brought them something they had forgotten: compassion. When the strong preyed on the weak, he stood between them. When sickness spread through the tribe, he tended the fallen. He was not a ruler then, he was a guardian. He listened to the wind and to the pain of the earth, and somehow he seemed to understand both. Under his presence, the tribes changed. They ceased their endless wars and began to build, carving shelters into the cliffs, planting seeds in the poisoned dust, trusting that somehow, under his gaze, life would return. The legends say that when Sanguinius spread his wings, the storms bent around him, unwilling to strike. They say that he could walk through fire without burning, and that his tears could cleanse water fouled by radiation. Whether these are miracles or the embellishments of love, none can say. But on Baal, those tales are sacred, whispered still by the children of the tribes that survived because of him. To them, the angel was not a myth, he was family. The first true hope their species had known in 1,000 generations. As he grew, Sanguinius sought out every remnant of knowledge he could find. In the ruins of the old cities, he uncovered fragments of machines, faded pick screens, broken data slates, and the bones of those who had built them. He studied them in silence, learning the story of humanity's fall, how the stars had once been theirs, how pride had led to ruin. And in that story, he saw a reflection of Baal itself, beauty corrupted, creation devoured by decay. It is said that from that day forward, he vowed to restore what had been lost, not merely for his own people, but for all mankind. When war came again, as it always did, Sanguinius led his tribe to defend those too weak to fight. He flew above the battlefield like a crimson flame, his spear shining in the dusk. Under his leadership, the scattered tribes of Baal began to unite. He spoke not of conquest, but of peace, of healing the world and reclaiming the skies. And so the wastes grew quiet, save for the whisper of the wind over glassed plains. Far above, in the cold vaults of the Imperium's earliest days, the Emperor felt a spark within the warp, the echo of his own blood. Across light years, through storms of psychic fire, he sensed the presence of his lost son. And so the fleets of Terra turned toward the Baal system, carrying with them the light of reunion. When the Emperor's golden ship entered orbit, the tribes thought the sun itself had descended. Sanguinius knew at once who had come. He had dreamed of this moment for years, of a figure wreathed in light, of a voice that called his name before he was born. The meeting of father and son is one of the most beloved tales in all the chronicles of the Great Crusade. Witnesses say that when Sanguinius beheld the Emperor, he knelt in silence, wings folded, head bowed. And the Emperor, seeing what his child had become, seeing the purity of his soul, the strength, the mercy, stepped forward and embraced him. For a moment, even the storm winds of Baal were still, and the Emperor whispered, "My son, my angel." From that day, the destiny of both was sealed. The Emperor placed upon Sanguinius the command of the 9th Legion, the Legion of Crimson Armor and Broken Pride. They had fought like beasts until then, half mad, half damned, used for wars no others would wage. But when their gene father came to them, they beheld his wings and wept. They felt, perhaps for the first time, that they were worthy of salvation. and in that instant they became the Blood Angels. In the years that followed, the angel and his sons would bring light to 1,000 worlds. They would descend upon cities ruled by tyrants, their jump packs roaring like the trumpets of judgment, their crimson armor reflecting the fire of dawn. Where they went, the people spoke of deliverance, and behind every conquest, Sanguinius would build temples of art and song, gardens grown in ash, libraries filled with knowledge reclaimed from the dark. He was not merely a warrior, he was a reminder of what humanity could be. Yet even then, in the quiet hours aboard his flagship, he would sometimes fall silent, eyes distant, wings folded like mourning cloth. He could feel the touch of the warp upon his bloodline, a faint pulse of hunger that stirred when battle raged too fiercely. He hid it from his father, fearing what it might mean, fearing that his sons might one day bear a curse they could never lift. And in his dreams he saw flashes of a future bathed in fire. His brothers at war, his father wounded, and himself dying beneath a traitor's blade. He told no one. He simply smiled and carried on. For that was Sanguinius, the angel who knew his fate and faced it with grace. The child who rose from ruin, the son who brought beauty to a world of death. The savior who would one day become a martyr. On Baal, they still whisper his name when the storms rise. They say that when the sky turns red with dust, the angel walks again, wings spread across the horizon, watching over his sons as they dream. When the angel took command of the 9th Legion, the galaxy was already on fire. The Emperor's great crusade had swept across the stars like a storm of gold and iron, reclaiming the scattered fragments of humanity from the long shadow of old night. World by world, system by system, the armies of Terra brought unity to a species that had forgotten its own name. And among those countless armies, the Legions Astartes were the brightest flame. 20 legions, each bearing the essence of a Primarch, each a mirror of their father's soul. But of all of them, none had endured so much sorrow, nor carried so heavy a burden as the 9th. Before Sanguinius, the 9th were feared even by their brothers. They were created for the dirtiest wars, sieges of madness, worlds drowning in radiation, planets crawling with mutation and disease. Where others would falter, the 9th endured. But the price of that endurance was terrible. Their gene seed had begun to twist, their skin grew pale, their eyes darkened, their minds grew quick to fury. They fought with desperation, tearing apart their enemies with bare hands when ammunition ran dry. In the halls of the Imperium, whispers followed them. Cannibals, berserkers, failed sons of the Emperor. They had no homeworld, no beauty, no song, only duty. Then came the day when a new commander arrived. A figure stepped from a golden ship onto the ashes of a conquered moon. He wore no helmet, and when he spread his wings, the legion fell silent. Sanguinius had come. The warriors of the 9th did not know what to do. They had never known gentleness. Their previous masters had driven them like beasts, seeing only their utility as weapons. But this being before them, this radiant, sorrowful angel, looked upon them with compassion, not disgust. He walked among them, touching their armor, speaking their names, asking about their scars. He told them that they were his sons, and one by one they began to believe it. The transformation was not instant, but it was inevitable. Under Sanguinius's guidance, the legion began to heal. Their rage was tempered by discipline, their brutality reshaped into art. They still fought like gods of war, but now there was purpose in every blow. They became a legion not of beasts, but of redemption. Their crimson armor, once a mark of shame, became a badge of honor, the color of sacrifice. They called themselves the Blood Angels. Wherever they fought, the legend of the angels spread. Worlds that had known only tyranny and despair saw red-armored figures descending from the heavens. Wings of fire and jet roaring through the skies. To the oppressed, they were salvation. To the heretic, they were judgment. and to the emperor they were poetry in motion, living proof that even the most broken could be made beautiful. The Great Crusade was a time of wonder, and for a while the Blood Angels seemed untouched by tragedy. They fought alongside their brother legions, the stoic Ultramarines, the iron-hearted Iron Hands, the proud Sons of Dorn. Even Horus, the War Master himself, counted Sanguinius among his dearest friends. Together they brought entire sectors to compliance, restoring light to the void. On worlds reclaimed from barbarism, Sanguinius would descend first, his wings gleaming in the sun, and the people would fall to their knees, calling him saint or god. He would lift them gently, saying, "I am neither. I am only a man who remembers what we can be." Under his leadership, the Blood Angels became not just conquerors but healers. They rebuilt what they destroyed. They tended to the wounded of both sides. When a world burned, they stayed behind to help it rise again. It was said that no planet visited by the Blood Angels ever forgot them, that their statues stood for centuries after they departed, their names whispered as blessings by those who survived. The other Primarchs might have mocked such sentimentality, but the Angel cared little for pride. He believed that humanity could be more than just a race of soldiers. He believed that beauty, even fleeting beauty, was worth saving. Yet beneath all this glory, the shadow remained. There were times when the Blood Angels fought too long, too hard, when the scent of blood became too thick in the air. In those moments, their eyes would darken, and their movements would become almost feral. They would roar, their hearts pounding with an ancient hunger that no discipline could fully restrain. When the battle ended, they would kneel in silence, ashamed. They called it the Red Thirst, though at that time it had no name. Sanguinius never punished them for it, he only wept, for he knew that the flaw was his own. The Great Crusade was not without its horrors. The Blood Angels fought in the black depths of the Carina Nebula, where Xenos empires rose and fell in the space of a single campaign. They battled orcs whose hordes covered continents, and things from the dark between stars that had no names in any human tongue. In one war, they fought for 3 centuries of standard time to reclaim the hollow worlds, great cavern planets where the air itself whispered madness. When the Blood Angels emerged, their armor was stained black from ash and ichor, their eyes hollow. And yet they still sang hymns to Sanguinius, voices trembling but defiant. It was said that even demons hesitated when they heard those songs, for they carried not fear but faith. On the bridge of his flagship, the Red Tear, Sanguinius would watch the stars in silence. His officers often found him there, wings folded, gaze distant. He loved the beauty of the void, the quiet between wars, the glow of distant suns. He would tell his sons that this too was worth fighting for. Not just the worlds themselves, but the stillness between them. The peace that might one day be possible if mankind could ever stop destroying itself. They believed him utterly. To them, Sanguinius was more than a Primarch. He was hope incarnate. But hope in the galaxy of man is fragile. Even as the Crusade reached its height, the first fractures began to form. There were whispers of pride, of envy, of gods older than the stars whispering in mortal minds. The Blood Angels fought on, unaware that the seeds of betrayal were already sown among their brothers. They brought light to the edge of the galaxy, and in their wake, shadows gathered. In one campaign, Sanguinius and Horus fought side by side to liberate the world of Melchior from a Xenos dominion. They stood together amid the ruins, laughing, their armor gleaming gold and red in the sun. Horus clasped Sanguinius's shoulder and said, "When this war is done, you and I will rebuild the galaxy together." Sanguinius smiled, though his eyes were distant. He did not tell Horus what he had seen in his dream, that one day they would meet again upon a ship called Vengeful Spirit, and only one would rise from it. But that moment had not yet come. For now, there was still light, The blood angels soared through the heavens like living comets, their wings of flame cutting through darkness. Worlds rose to greet them, and the name Sanguinius was spoken in the same breath as Emperor. They were the shining image of what humanity could be. Noble, tragic, and terrible in their beauty. And though they did not yet know it, every victory they won would one day become a memory they would cling to in grief. The galaxy turned, the Great Crusade marched on, and somewhere far beyond the light of the Emperor's fleets, the warp began to stir. The blood angels stood ready, their faith unbroken, their father's wings still white in the dawn. But in the shadows of that dawn, the first drops of crimson had already begun to fall. The blood angels are not merely warriors, they are dreamers haunted by hunger. Within each of them lies a silence, a shadow that whispers during the calm between battles, a voice that asks for blood. They call it the red thirst. It is not a sickness nor a corruption in the way of chaos. It is something older, woven into the very pattern of their being. A flaw in the gene seed of Sanguinius himself, a flaw that bleeds through time across 10,000 years, a thirst that cannot ever be quenched. To understand it, you must first understand the nature of their father. Sanguinius was too pure for the age in which he lived. Where his brothers embraced the savagery of war, he sought to elevate it, to turn battle into art, to find beauty in the dance of death. He fought not to destroy, but to preserve, to shield the fragile spark of humanity from the abyss. But the warp does not forgive beauty, it hungers for it. And so the echo of his perfection drew something dark to him, something that left its mark upon his blood. That mark became the red thirst. At first it was only a whisper, a faint pull at the edge of battle, a tightening in the throat when the scent of blood hung heavy in the air. The blood angels would feel their hearts race faster than the beat of their jump packs, their senses sharpening, their vision narrowing to the rhythm of combat. For a moment they would become something more, something primal, unstoppable. And when the battle ended, they would feel it fade, leaving only shame and exhaustion. They would pray, carve new verses upon their armor, and swear it would never happen again. But the thirst always returned. In the early days of the Great Crusade, Sanguinius believed he could control it. He taught his sons meditation, discipline, art, the cultivation of beauty as armor against the beast within. On their ships, chapels, and galleries stood beside armories. The blood angels painted frescoes of light and death, composed hymns of loss and glory, and built sculptures of marble and gold to remind themselves that humanity was worth the struggle. Their artistry was not vanity, it was survival. To an outsider, it might seem strange that soldiers so dedicated to war would create so much beauty. But for the blood angels, creation is the only thing that keeps the hunger at bay. It reminds them that they are men, not monsters. That they still serve the vision of their father, a vision of a future where mankind rises, not falls. When they paint or sing or sculpt, the noise of the thirst fades for a time, and they can almost remember what peace feels like. Still, the flaw deepened. Each generation of gene seed carried it further. Each clone brother inherited the same ache in his heart, the same tremor in his hands when blood was spilled. They began to recognize it in one another. The quickening of breath, the red gleam in the eyes, the tremor of restraint. Those who felt it strongest withdrew into solitude. Others sought absolution through ritual, fasting, penance, silent prayer. Yet no ritual could cure what lay written in their blood. The red thirst is not madness, it is memory. A memory of perfection, of purity, of the moment when the angel fell. Some scholars among the blood angels whisper that the thirst is their father's grief, imprinted upon his sons at the moment of his death. The echo of his final agony turned inward, when the battle fury takes them, when their vision turns crimson and their pulse drowns out all sound. They are not simply lusting for blood. They are remembering, reliving the moment when Sanguinius died, feeling the weight of his wings breaking, the warmth of his lifeblood upon the floor of the vengeful spirit. And so they drink, not to sate hunger, but to fill the hollow left by loss. The chaplains speak of it softly, never in public. In the Arx Angelicum, the fortress of Baal, there are sanctums where those who feel the thirst too keenly are brought for reflection. The halls are silent there, lit only by candlelight and the faint scent of incense. The brothers kneel in stillness, their weapons laid aside, their armor removed. They breathe deeply, reciting verses of their Primarch's words. To master the blood is to master the self. Some succeed, some do not return. Even the sanguinary priests, those who tend the gene seed and the sacred red grail, cannot fully explain it. They study the flaw, measure it, track it through centuries of decay and mutation. But it remains elusive, a spiritual disease as much as a biological one. And perhaps that is the truth of it. The red thirst is not something that can be cured. It is part of what makes the blood angels who they are. Without it, they might lose not only their curse, but their grace. There are those among the Imperium who see the thirst as a mark of damnation. Inquisitors have whispered that the blood angels are tainted, that their purity is a lie. Yet none who have fought beside them doubt their loyalty. They may hunger, but they do not fall. They stand upon the edge of madness every day, and they hold the line. And in a galaxy that has forgotten mercy, that alone is a miracle. In battle, the red thirst manifests as a terrible beauty. When it takes hold, the blood angels become swift and terrible beyond measure. Their eyes blaze like molten gold. Their movements blur. They strike with the fury of gods, cutting through ranks of heretics and Xenos alike. Those who witness it say that it is like watching an angel descend from heaven. A moment of awe and terror in equal measure. And yet after the battle, when the fury fades, the warriors weep. They weep because they felt the pull again. They weep because they enjoyed it. There are stories, quiet, forbidden stories, of brothers who have fallen too far, of warriors who drank the blood of their enemies, unable to stop, of those who were locked away, their eyes black with hunger, their screams echoing through the catacombs of Baal until mercy was granted. But these stories are told in whispers, for to speak them aloud is to tempt the curse. The blood angels do not deny their flaw. They simply bear it with pride and pain intertwined. Sanguinius himself bore it to the end. He felt it stir in his veins in every battle, the taste of blood on the air, the whisper of something darker pressing against his mind. But he mastered it through sheer will, through love for his sons and faith in his father's dream. He taught them that to resist temptation is itself an act of holiness, and in that resistance they became something more than warriors. They became saints of sorrow, martyrs of beauty. In the long nights aboard their ships, when the stars drift past like pale embers, the blood angels still whisper their father's name. They remember the feel of his hand upon their heads, the calm of his voice. They remind themselves that the hunger within them is the price they pay for his perfection. And though it gnaws at them without end, they do not curse it. For in that hunger lies their devotion. It is proof that they still carry his blood, that they still fight in his image. The red thirst is the wound that will never close. It is the pulse of sorrow beneath their armor. The quiet reminder that beauty and damnation are only ever a heartbeat apart. And as the galaxy burns, the sons of Sanguinius fight on. Red angels with broken hearts, seeking redemption in every drop of blood they spill. There are moments in the history of mankind so vast, so heavy with grief, that even the stars seem to dim when their story is told. One of these moments, perhaps the greatest of all, is the fall of Horus and the death of Sanguinius. For in that single heartbeat of betrayal, the galaxy was forever changed, and the sons of the angel have never stopped mourning. The Horus heresy began like a whisper in the dark. Horus Lupercal, the War Master, the Emperor's most beloved son, was wounded on the world of Davin. There in the shadows of corruption, chaos found its voice. It spoke to him with the tenderness of a brother, with the certainty of destiny, and it poisoned his heart. By the time he returned to the stars, Horus was no longer the Emperor's son. He was his enemy. The galaxy burned in the wake of his rebellion. 9 legions turned traitor, their loyalty twisted into hatred, their faith consumed by the promises of dark gods. Brothers who had fought side by side now faced each other across battlefields, soaked in the blood of their own kind. It was the death of the Emperor's dream, the breaking of mankind's one chance at unity. And through it all, Sanguinius remained loyal. Even when he saw what had become of his brother, he never once raised his hand in hate. He loved Horus still, and that love would be the death of him. The Blood Angels were far from Terra when the war began. They were in the Cygnus cluster, summoned there by a false distress call, a trap laid by the servants of the blood god Khorne. There on the world of Cygnus Prime, the angel faced not an army of men, but a host of demons. The skies turned red as the veil between realities tore open, and from that wound poured a tide of madness and flame. The Blood Angels fought with valor, but they were surrounded by horrors that mocked every human form. Amid that carnage, a great demon prince appeared, its voice like the tolling of 1,000 war drums. It called itself Kabanda, and it claimed to bear a message from Horus. "Your father is dead, and your brother waits for you in the pit." Sanguinius fought the demon upon the ruins of a cathedral that burned with bloodfire. Wings torn, armor shattered, he drove his blade through the creature's heart and cast it back into the warp. But victory came at a terrible price. The demonic assault scarred the soul of the entire legion. It awakened something within them, a deeper hunger, a rage that tasted of madness. From that day forward, the red thirst grew stronger. The Blood Angels would never again know peace. When they finally broke free of the warp storms that had trapped them, they found a galaxy aflame. Horus had turned half the Imperium against its emperor. Worlds burned, fleets vanished, and at the heart of it all, Terra, the cradle of mankind, was under siege. The Blood Angels set course for home. The journey through the warp was long and treacherous. Some ships were lost, others emerged centuries later, empty and cold. But the Red Tear, Sanguinius's flagship, endured, and when it came at last to Terra, the angel found his father's palace surrounded by the legions of chaos. The sky was black with ash, the walls burned, and on the horizon the War Master's banners flew. The siege of Terra is a story carved in grief. For 55 days and nights, the Loyalists held the line. The Imperial fists, the white scars, the remnants of the shattered legions, all fought side by side upon the walls of the Imperial palace. Among them stood the Blood Angels, crimson wings upon a sea of ruin. They fought upon the Eternity Gate, where the enemy came in endless waves. The air was thick with smoke and the screams of the dying. But the sons of Sanguinius did not yield. It is said that during those days the angel barely slept. He walked the battlements, speaking softly to his men, reminding them why they fought. He told them that humanity must endure, not because it deserved to, but because it must. In him they saw calm amid the storm, and when they faltered, he lifted them with his voice. "We are the walls of Baal. We are the blood of the Emperor. We are the last dawn of man, but even angels grow weary." The siege wore on, and the traitors pressed harder. Sanguinius could feel it, the shadow of destiny closing in. He had dreamed of this moment many times, a dark throne, a brother's face twisted by corruption, and his own death. Now he knew the dream was real. When the outer defenses fell, Horus opened the gates of his flagship, the vengeful spirit, to the void. He lowered his shields, daring the Emperor to come and face him. But before the Emperor could act, Sanguinius stepped forward. He asked to go first, to reach Horus, to try once more to save him. The Emperor hesitated, for he knew what awaited his son. But the angel only smiled. "My father," he said, "you taught me that love is stronger than fear. Let me prove it." And so, with his wings unfurled, Sanguinius entered the storm. What happened aboard the vengeful spirit has been told 1,000 ways, but the truth remains a mystery known only to the dead. Some say Sanguinius fought his way through demons and traitor marines until he reached Horus's throne room. Others say Horus found him first, drawing him in with lies of reconciliation. What is certain is this: when they met, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Horus stood resplendent in armor forged by the dark gods, his once noble face warped by hatred and sorrow. He tried to reason with Sanguinius, offering him power, dominion, and freedom from the Emperor's chains. But Sanguinius saw only the brother he loved, lost forever. He begged Horus to turn back, to remember who he once was. For a moment the War Master faltered, and then he struck. The blow broke the angel's back and shattered his wings. He fell to his knees, blood pooling beneath him, and still he reached out, not in hate, but in pity. In that final moment, Sanguinius looked into the eyes of his brother and saw only tragedy. He whispered something, words lost to time, and then Horus killed him. It is said that when Sanguinius died, the light of his soul flared so bright that even the Emperor felt it across the battlefield. The pain of that loss filled him with fury beyond mortal comprehension. He teleported aboard the vengeful spirit and faced Horus himself. The battle that followed shook the fabric of reality. When it ended, the War Master was dead, the Emperor mortally wounded, and the angel lay still upon the floor, his blood like rubies upon the metal. The siege was won, but victory tasted like ash. The blood angels found their father's body where he had fallen, his wings spread like broken glass. They did not weep. They could not. Their throats were dry, their hearts numb. They carried him in silence back to Terra, their crimson armor dark with his blood. And in the warp, something screamed. From that moment, a new curse was born, the Black Rage. The psychic shock of Sanguinius's death burned itself into the souls of all his sons. Some began to see visions of that final moment, reliving it over and over, their minds shattering under its weight. They would roar his name in battle, believing themselves to be the angel himself, trapped forever in the moment of his death. The red thirst had been sorrow, the black rage was despair, and together they became the twin burdens of the blood angels for all eternity. Even now, 10,000 years later, they say that on the eve of battle, some blood angels wake from dreams of wings and shadow. They feel the hand of their father upon their shoulder. They hear his final breath, and they whisper as their ancestors did before them, "For the angel we bleed." There are curses that burn like fire, consuming swiftly and leaving only ashes. And then there are curses that endure, heavy, patient, and eternal, carved into the soul of a people. The Black Rage is one such curse. It is the ghost of a memory, the echo of a scream that never fades. For in the hearts of the blood angels, their father's death was not merely an ending. It was a wound that never healed. After the siege of Terra, the blood angels returned to Baal in silence. They carried Sanguinius home, his body preserved within a sarcophagus of gold. The skies of their world darkened that day. The tribes who dwelled upon the Rad Wastes fell to their knees, for they could feel it. The sorrow of angels, the grief of sons who had lost their god. They built for him a tomb, vast and radiant, deep within the fortress monastery of the Arx Angelicum. Its halls were carved with images of flight and light, of victory and sacrifice. At its center stood the body of the angel, wings spread in eternal rest, eyes closed as though he were merely dreaming. But though his body was at peace, his sons were not. In the first years after the heresy, the Blood Angels fought to rebuild what had been shattered. They swore loyalty to the new Imperium, accepted Guilliman's Codex reforms, and divided their legion into chapters. They did everything their duty demanded, but beneath their discipline something was changing. Something dark was stirring in the blood. It began quietly. A warrior would wake from his rest screaming, eyes wild, calling out for Horus. Others would find him standing before the tomb of Sanguinius, fists bleeding, armor scarred where he had clawed at it with his bare hands. He would speak of visions, of golden halls, of the vengeful spirit, of the moment when wings broke and light died. And when battle came, he would charge the enemy without fear or reason, fighting as though he were reliving that final hour. For in his mind, he was Sanguinius, standing before Horus once more, dying again and again in endless memory. The chaplains watched in sorrow. They tried prayer, fasting, penance. Nothing could reach those lost to the rage. Their minds were gone. Not consumed by chaos, but trapped in time, imprisoned within the death of their father. To kill them would have been mercy, but mercy is a cruel thing when it must be given to one's own brother. So the Blood Angels did something no other chapter has ever done. They gave the damned a purpose. They gathered them together, those who bore the mark of the Black Rage, and they named them the Death Company. Their armor was painted black, the color of mourning. Their helmets removed so that their faces, twisted with grief and fury, would not be hidden. Upon their left shoulder they bore the blood-red cross of the angel's sacrifice. They were no longer men, nor even Astartes. They were martyrs. When battle came, they were unleashed, not as soldiers, but as living relics of a moment that defined an age. Imagine them falling from the sky in silence. No war cries, no formation, only the sound of engines and the rush of air. Their eyes burn with memory, their minds are elsewhere, in another time, upon another ship. Each believes he is Sanguinius, facing the War Master in his final hour. They see not orcs or heretics before them, but the armored form of Horus himself. They fight until nothing remains, and in that madness they achieve a kind of peace. To serve in the Death Company is both curse and honor. Every Blood Angel knows it could one day be his fate. No test can predict who will fall to the Black Rage. It comes like a storm, sudden and merciless, a flicker of memory too powerful to resist. A brother may wake from sleep and find himself trembling, his reflection no longer his own. When that happens, he knows the end has come. He will kneel before a chaplain, confess his visions, and ask only one thing: to die as the angel died. The chaplains are the shepherds of the doomed. Clad in black armor adorned with bone and scripture, they stand watch over the Death Company like priests at a funeral that never ends. They listen to the raving, the prayers, the half-remembered fragments of Sanguinius's final words. They hold each brother's face, whispering blessings that are both farewell and forgiveness. When battle begins, they lead them. Crozius raised high, voice steady, into the fire. They do not restrain them. They simply walk beside them, ensuring that their last act is one of glory. Among these shepherds are names spoken with reverence. Chaplain Lamartez, the guardian of the lost, who walks forever at the edge of sanity, balancing between lucidity and the rage. He has tasted it himself, but through will alone has not yet fallen. To those under his care, he is both savior and warden. Another is Astarath the Grim, high chaplain of the Blood Angels and bearer of the executioner's axe. It is he who judges whether a brother lost to the rage may fight one last battle, or must instead be granted release. He carries out this duty with tears that no one ever sees. The Death Company do not die quietly. Their deaths are songs of devotion written in blood and ash. They charge into impossible odds, tearing through enemies that would break even the strongest of chapters. No fear touches them, for they believe they are already dead, and in that belief lies their strength. They embody the purest form of sacrifice, the willingness to burn utterly for something greater than oneself. When the battle ends and the field is silent, the chaplains walk among the fallen. They recite the lament of angels, naming each brother and marking his armor with the sign of Sanguinius. Those few who somehow survive are carried back to Baal, where they will spend their remaining days in the sepulchres beneath the Arx Angelicum, tended by the sanguinary priests until death claims them at last. Their names are carved upon the walls of memory alongside 10,000 others who died the same way. Every blood angel who passes through those halls reads those names and whispers a single promise. I will remember. The Black Rage is not something to be cured. It is a manifestation of love too deep, grief too vast. It is Sanguinius's final moment, echoing forever in the hearts of his sons. And though it steals their minds, it also binds them to him more completely than any prayer could. For in the end, the Death Company do not fall because they are weak. They fall because they feel too much. In this, the curse becomes sanctity. Each warrior who succumbs gives his life to keep the memory of the angel alive. Through them, his death is relived, and through that reliving, his spirit endures. Every time they charge into the jaws of death, the galaxy remembers, if only for a moment, the beauty of Sanguinius's sacrifice, and that, the blood angels believe, is enough. Angels. When the night is quiet on Baal, the chaplains sometimes walk the battlements and look toward the stars. They say the wind that sweeps across the desert carries faint whispers, the voices of the lost calling their father's name. They say that somewhere beyond the veil, Sanguinius watches still, wings unfurled, waiting for the day when he can take his sons home. Until that day, the Death Company will fight on. They will bleed. They will fall. And in every drop of blood they spill, the angel will rise again. 10,000 years have passed since the fall of Sanguinius. 10,000 years since the siege of Terra, since the angel's golden wings broke and his blood fell upon cold metal. And still his sons endure. In the endless night of the 41st millennium, where hope is a dying ember and humanity survives only by will and war, the blood angels remain a paradox, both saviors and the damned. Their name still inspires awe, their image still inspires devotion. And upon the desolate world of Baal, the red angels still rise. Baal, a world that should be dead but refuses to die. From orbit it appears as a crimson scar, vast deserts of irradiated dust, oceans long since boiled away, and mountains that glow faintly in the dark from the radiation that saturates them. The air is thin and dry, the wind cuts like sandpaper. No plants grow, no rain falls. And yet amid that ruin stands the fortress monastery of the Blood Angels, the Arx Angelicum, the citadel of angels. Carved into the mountain ranges of Baal Prime, the Arx Angelicum is both monastery and mausoleum. Its towers pierce the sky like blades, their golden domes gleaming faintly in the weak light of the sun. The walls are engraved with prayers, with names of the fallen, with verses that tell the story of the angel and his sons. Inside, the air hums with the low sound of chanting, the endless litany of remembrance that has never ceased since the day Sanguinius fell. Every hour of every day, a choir of brothers sings his praises, their voices echoing through halls lined with relics of the Great Crusade. At the heart of the fortress lies the Sanctum Sanctorum, where Sanguinius's body rests in stasis. Few are permitted to enter that chamber. Only the chapter master, the sanguinary high priest, and the most senior chaplains. Within, the angel sleeps in radiant light, his wings unfurled, untouched by time. The faithful call it the heart of Baal. It is said that in times of great crisis, the light around his sarcophagus brightens, as if his spirit still stirs, watching over his sons. The chapter itself is organized much as Robuta Guilliman decreed in the Codex Astartes, though with traditions that are uniquely their own. 1,000 warriors divided into 10 companies. But within that order lies a ritual harmony that reflects the Blood Angel's dual nature: discipline and art, fury and grace. Each company trains not only for war but for creation, sculpting, painting, music, poetry. To a Blood Angel, beauty is not luxury, it is survival. It is how they keep the red thirst at bay, how they hold madness at the door. The first company is known as the Veterans of the Sanguinary Guard. They are the living icons of the chapter, clad in gilded armor, their wings of white and gold sculpted in imitation of their Primarch's own. They are the Emperor's angels made manifest, guardians of relics, slayers of monsters, the very embodiment of their father's ideal. To gaze upon them in battle is to witness something close to divinity. Their commander, the chapter master, often titled the Lord of Angels, leads from their ranks. In this age, that mantle belongs to Commander Dante, who has borne it longer than most mortals have lived entire lives. It is said his face has not been seen beneath his mask in centuries, for he carries the weight of millennia upon his shoulders. The 2nd through 5th companies are the battle companies, the true heart of the chapter's strength. Their captains are chosen for both tactical brilliance and purity of spirit. Each company bears its own traditions and banners, painted with scenes from the life of Sanguinius. Before every deployment, the sanguinary priests bless their weapons with drops from the Red Grail, a relic said to contain the preserved blood of the angel himself. They believe that through this rite, their father's essence flows once more within them, sanctifying the battle to come. The 6th through 9th companies are the reserve forces. Though reserve is a word that means little in the endless wars of the 41st millennium, they are often deployed as rapid strike forces, their assault marines descending upon enemy lines like comets. For the Blood Angels excel at the art of the aerial strike. They are masters of the jump pack, warriors who fall from the heavens with bolters roaring and blades aflame. In the moment before impact, their crimson armor catches the light, and the enemy below believes they are witnessing angels descending from the stars. Perhaps in a way, they are. The 10th company is the Scout Company, composed of neophytes, those who have survived the trials of transformation but have not yet earned the full armor of a space marine. Their path to ascension is harder than most. For on Baal, the aspirants are drawn from the wasteland tribes, the same people who once knelt before Sanguinius himself. The strongest among them are taken to the fortress for testing. They undergo surgery and gene implantation, the long, agonizing process that remakes them into something more than human. But for the Blood Angels, there is an additional trial, the test of spirit. The sanguinary priests must ensure that the potential recruit possesses not only strength, but grace, the ability to feel beauty, to appreciate creation. Those who lack it are never chosen, for the angel's sons must be more than soldiers, they must be dreamers. Among the chapter's spiritual heart are 2 great orders, the sanguinary priests and the chaplains. The priests are both healers and alchemists, caretakers of the gene seed and guardians of the sacred bloodline. They wear armor of white, adorned with chalices and wings. Each carries a vial of Sanguinius's blood, a symbol of life, purity, and redemption. To the Blood Angels, the priests are holy beyond question. Through them flows the lifeblood of the chapter. They tend to the fallen, extract the gene seed of the dead, and anoint new warriors with the sacred ichor that binds them to their father's spirit. The chaplains, on the other hand, are the keepers of faith and of despair. They guide their brothers through the endless struggle against the red thirst and the black rage. Their armor is black, their eyes hidden behind the skull-faced helmets of their order. They are both confessors and executioners, the voices of remembrance that ensure no blood angel forgets who he is. It is they who select those who will join the death company. It is they who lead them to their final glory. And when the battles end, it is they who recite the litany of the fallen, their voices echoing through the cathedrals of Baal like morning bells. Everywhere within the Arx Angelicum, the duality of the blood angels is reflected. There are training halls filled with the sound of chainswords and thunder hammers, and beside them studios of marble and gold, where warriors paint and sculpt in silence. Statues of the angels stand at every crossway, wings outstretched, eyes downcast in eternal serenity, and in the deepest vaults, sealed behind golden doors, lie the relics of the Great Crusade. Sanguinius's armor, his sword, and the blood-stained feather said to have fallen from his wings upon the vengeful spirit. Yet even surrounded by such beauty, the blood angels cannot escape their curse. The red thirst still whispers in their veins. The black rage still claims their brothers. Every battle is both a victory and a prayer, both an act of war and an act of remembrance. And so they fight on, noble, doomed, and radiant. Visitors to Baal describe the chapter as a paradox of serenity and sorrow. When they walk the halls of the fortress, they hear music, slow, mournful hymns composed by the brothers themselves. They see warriors kneeling in meditation before frescoes of their father. They see relics polished with care, inscriptions renewed daily by hands that have known war for centuries. And when those visitors depart, they carry with them a strange peace, as though they have glimpsed something divine, something terrible, and something achingly human. The blood angels endure not because they are flawless, but because they refuse to surrender to their flaws. They know what they are, they know what they carry, and still they fight. Not for glory, not even for victory, but for the faint hope that beauty can still exist in a universe built on death. And so, in the dark millennium, when the Imperium trembles and worlds die by the thousands, the sons of Sanguinius rise again. Their jump packs roar like thunder. Their swords gleam like sunlight through stained glass. They fall from the heavens as crimson meteors, wings of flame unfurled, and the people below raise their eyes in awe. For they know what that sight means. It means salvation. It means sacrifice. It means that the angels of Baal have come. In the long centuries after the heresy, the galaxy did not grow quieter. It only grew darker. The emperor was entombed upon his golden throne, and the age of miracles ended. From that silence, the Imperium rebuilt itself, wounded but alive. And though the legions of the Great Crusade were no more, their bloodlines endured. Broken into smaller fragments called chapters, each carrying forward a single ember of their Primarch's spirit. From Sanguinius, many such embers were born. They are called the Sons of Sanguinius, the Blood Angels' successors. To this day, they spread across the stars like scattered jewels, crimson and gold glinting in the endless night. Each one fights in his father's image. Each one bears his curse. And each, in their own way, keeps the memory of the angel alive. When Robert Guilliman decreed the breaking of the legions in the second founding, the Blood Angels obeyed. Their loyalty to the Codex Astartes was tempered with grief, for to divide their brotherhood was to divide their father's legacy. But they did it, because they must, because the galaxy needed angels, not one legion, but many. And so the 9th Legion became not one chapter, but dozens. Among the most famous of these are the Flesh-Tearers. They are the most violent of Sanguinius's heirs, the embodiment of the flaw unbound. Where the blood angels restrain their fury through ritual and faith, the Flesh-Tearers embrace it. They are led by Gabriel Seth, a warrior as noble in spirit as he is brutal in battle. He fights not because he loves war, but because he cannot stop. In every drop of blood spilled, he sees a reflection of the doom his chapter faces. the slow death of their gene seed, the corruption of their bloodline. They are dying, one battle at a time, and they know it. But still they fight. It is all they can do. They are what the blood angels fear they might one day become. Then there are the blood drinkers, solemn and ritualistic. They attempt to master their flaw through control, through the act of drinking blood in sacred ceremony rather than frenzy. To outsiders it seems barbaric, but to the blood drinkers it is sanctity. They believe that by consuming the blood of the pure they can commune with the essence of Sanguinius, absorbing not just vitality but memory. Their rituals are slow and reverent, conducted in silence beneath candlelight. And though their methods are grim, they remain loyal beyond question. They bleed, and they believe. The angels sanguine are more mysterious still. Half of their armor is painted black, the other half red. A symbol of duality, of light and shadow, purity and curse. They are quiet, secretive, and rarely seen without their helms. Some say it is because their faces have grown too pale, their eyes too dark. Others whisper that they hide their sorrow from the galaxy, that their beauty, like that of their Primarch, has become unbearable even to themselves. They are monks of melancholy, warriors who fight as though every battle were a funeral for the past. There are others, the angels vermilion, the angels in carmine, the lamenters, the carmine blades, the knights of blood, the doom eagles, and countless more. Each carries a shard of the same inheritance, grace and ruin, light and thirst. Some have fallen, lost to madness or corruption. Others endure, still noble, still shining amid the dark. But all are bound by one truth, that their father's death still echoes in their veins. The lamenters are perhaps the most tragic of all. Their history is a song of sorrow, each verse another disaster. They are known for their compassion, their unwillingness to abandon the innocent even when it leads them to ruin. Again and again, fate has punished them for their mercy, betrayed by allies, struck by plague, hunted by their own kind. They fight on nonetheless, painted in yellow and black checkered armor, their sigil a bleeding heart with wings. They are called cursed, unlucky, doomed. But among the blood angels' bloodline they are loved, for they embody Sanguinius's greatest virtue, the refusal to give up hope, even when hope is gone. There are others whose paths have diverged more sharply. The Knights of Blood, for example, were once noble and fierce, but their thirst consumed them. They were declared renegade by the Inquisition after too many acts of uncontrolled slaughter. Yet even in exile they did not turn to chaos. They continued to fight humanity's enemies in secret, their loyalty undimmed, their sanity frayed. When they were finally destroyed, their last message to Baal was a prayer. "Forgive us, Father." We tried. Across the galaxy, the descendants of Sanguinius form a vast brotherhood, not united by command, but by blood and sorrow. They gather rarely, for the Imperium is vast and war never ends. But when they do meet, the sight is awe-inspiring. A host of crimson-clad warriors filling the skies, banners of gold and black fluttering in the wind. They call these gatherings the conclaves of angels. There, beneath the banners of Baal, chapter masters speak softly of visions, omens, and dreams, dreams of their father walking once more among the stars. And though the blood angels lead them, they do so not as kings, but as elder brothers. Dante himself, the Lord of Angels, has long borne the burden of holding the bloodline together. He knows that each successor chapter is both kin and mirror, showing what they were, what they might be, and what they might yet become. He grieves for those who fall, honors those who endure, and prays for those who will come after. For the bloodline of Sanguinius is not just a legacy, it is a lineage of faith. Among these chapters there is an unspoken understanding. None of them truly expect to survive forever. Their gene seed is flawed, their blood thinning with each passing millennium. The red thirst grows stronger. The black rage claims more and more of their sons. But to them, this is not tragedy. It is destiny. They believe that when the last of them falls, Sanguinius will finally rise again, and his death will be avenged. Until that day, they fight on, red wings burning in the dark. There are some who wonder why the Emperor has not granted them a cure, why he allows them to carry such a burden while other chapters flourish. But perhaps that too is part of their purpose. Perhaps the Blood Angels and their kin are meant to remind the Imperium of something it has forgotten. That beauty can exist even amid despair. That nobility can survive even when damned. For every world they save, every child who looks up and sees red angels descending from the sky, is proof that Sanguinius's dream has not yet died. And so across the stars, the sons of Sanguinius continue to fight. They are scattered, scarred, and divided, yet bound by blood. Wherever they go, the enemies of mankind whisper the same prayer in terror: beware the angels, for in that crimson light, death comes not as cruelty, but as redemption. Their wings may be broken, their souls may be cursed, but their hearts are still pure. They are the echo of a fallen god, the living memory of sacrifice. And even now, when the Imperium trembles, when the darkness grows thicker with every passing year, the sons of the angels still rise, still bleed, still believe. They are the legacy of the ninth. They are the proof that love can outlast death. And as long as even one of them still fights beneath a crimson banner, the spirit of Sanguinius endures. The Blood Angels are timeless. They have fought through 10,000 years of war, through ages of faith and ruin, through cataclysms that would have broken any other. To live as a son of Sanguinius is to fight without end, and yet through every century, they fight not only for victory but for remembrance, for the dream of their father, for the perfection that once was. Each campaign they fight becomes not just history but scripture, verses written in blood and fire. Each battle is another stanza in the long poem of their existence, and though their victories are countless, there are a few that shine brighter than the rest, carved into the memory of the Imperium itself. It began as all tragedies do, with silence. Baal, the home of the Blood Angels, was at peace, or as close to peace as any world can be in the 41st millennium. The skies above the Arx Angelicum shimmered red in the light of its dying sun, and the chapter's warriors prepared for yet another crusade, but far across the void a shadow was coming. It was vast beyond comprehension. The Tyrannid Hive fleet Leviathan, a hunger that stretched from one edge of the galaxy to the other. Its tendrils reached for Baal. For years the Blood Angels had prepared for this war. They had fortified their homeworld, summoned their successor chapters, and readied every weapon, every fleet. When the swarm came, it came like nightfall, blotting out the stars. The sky turned black with wings and carapace. Mountains trembled as biotitans strode across the sands. The atmosphere itself screamed. Commander Dante stood upon the battlements of the Arx Angelicum, watching the swarm descend. He had lived 1,000 years and more, fought in more wars than could be counted, and he knew this might be the end. The Blood Angels and their kin were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but retreat was not in their nature. They would defend Baal or die upon its soil. The battle raged for days without end. The angels fought in the ruins of their own cities, crimson armor gleaming with alien ichor. The Death Company fell upon the Tyrannids with howls of rage and ecstasy, carving rivers of destruction through the swarm. Every moment was a hymn of defiance, every act of slaughter a prayer to their father. And still, the Tyrannids came, wave after wave, until the sands were buried beneath corpses. At the height of the battle, when all seemed lost, something miraculous occurred. A great warp storm tore across the system, its light burning brighter than any star. When it faded, the skies cleared. and in orbit above Baal a new fleet had appeared. The banners of Ultramar fluttered among the stars. Robert Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines and now Lord Commander of the Imperium, had returned. He brought with him Salvation, the Indomitus Crusade, and the Primaris Marines, new sons born of ancient design. The devastation of Baal ended not in extinction but in rebirth. Yet the world was scarred, its deserts filled with the bones of angels. And Dante, weary beyond words, knelt before Guilliman and whispered, "The angel endures." Long before Leviathan came, another swarm had tested the Blood Angel's resolve. This was the Shield of Baal campaign, a war fought against tyrannids that sought to devour entire star systems within days. The Blood Angels, joined by their successors, formed a vast defensive cordon known as the Cryptus Shield. Worlds burned as the Xenos consumed everything in their path, yet the sons of Sanguinius fought like demigods. On the world of Asphodex, they stood upon the walls of the Fortress of Redemption and repelled the tyrannids in a storm of fire and blood. The sky boiled with spores and acid rain, but still the angels held. It was in this war that the full depth of the Blood Angels' curse was revealed to their allies, for when the Red Thirst took them, they fought not like men but like beasts. To the human soldiers beside them, it was both terrifying and magnificent. To see warriors of gold and crimson transformed into avatars of vengeance. Even the tyrannids, mindless as they were, seemed to hesitate before that fury. When the shield of Baal finally held, it was not victory that the angels felt, but emptiness. Too many brothers had fallen, too many consumed by the hunger they could not escape. But the system lived, and the stars shone red in their honor. No tale of the Blood Angels' wars can be told without returning to where their curse was born. The Battle of Cygnus Prime remains one of the most tragic chapters in their history. The moment when the angel himself first faced the demons of the warp and saw what would become of his sons. Even now, 10,000 years later, the Blood Angels remember it as if it happened yesterday. Each year, on the anniversary of that battle, the chaplains lead a procession through the halls of Baal. They recite the names of those who fell, and the choir sings the dirge of Cygnus, a melody so sorrowful that even servitors weep. To the Blood Angels, Cygnus is not just history, it is prophecy. For it was there that Sanguinius saw the face of Kabanda, the bloodthirster who would haunt his legion forever. It was there that he felt the red thirst awaken. It was there that he understood what doom awaited his sons. The battle was won, but victory was an illusion. Every Blood Angel carries the memory of Cygnus Prime within him, as though its ashes still cling to their wings. Though 10,000 years have passed since the siege of Terra, the Blood Angels have never stopped fighting that battle. In their hearts, they are always there. On the walls of the Imperial Palace, their father at their side, the sky filled with fire. To this day, they reenact the siege in ritual and remembrance. Every year during the Feast of the Angels' Fall, the entire chapter gathers in silence within the Hall of Echoes. They replay the final moments of Sanguinius's life in solemn meditation. No one speaks, no one moves. They simply remember. To an outsider, this may seem morbid. But for the Blood Angels, remembrance is life. It is what keeps the black rage from consuming them entirely. By honoring their father's death, they honor their own fate. And when the ceremony ends, they rise renewed, ready to fight again, to die again, to dream again. Beyond these great wars are countless smaller ones, campaigns lost to record but remembered in blood. The cleansing of the Crypta Obscura, the reclamation of tranquility, the purging of the warp wraiths of Melchior, the defense of Cretacia beside the flesh terrors, the rescue of the Ecclesiarch's pilgrims on Corinth. Each one, a spark of light in a void that grows darker with every passing millennium. Wherever the Blood Angels go, the pattern repeats: death, art, memory. They descend, they save, they mourn, and they leave behind statues of their fallen carved from the very stone of the battlefield. Some say this is their true warfare, not conquest, but preservation. Each world they save becomes a canvas. Each victory is another brushstroke in a galaxy-sized fresco painted in blood and faith. Through all these wars, the Blood Angels endure. They endure because they must, because they are not simply fighting for the Imperium. They are fighting for a memory, for a dream of what humanity could have been. Every battle is a prayer, every kill an act of devotion. And when they fall, they do not fall alone. Their Father's wings close around them, unseen but eternal. For in the endless war of the 41st millennium, there is one constant. The angels of Baal will always come. When hope fades, when the sky burns, when the last fortress trembles, they will descend through the storm, red and gold against the black, singing the same words their Father spoke long ago. For those we loved, we fight again. If Sanguinius was the light of the great Crusade, then Commander Dante is its lingering echo, the final ember that refuses to die. He has lived for over 1,000 years. He has watched empires rise and fall, brothers wither to dust, and entire sectors vanish beneath the claws of the alien and the rot of chaos. And still, he endures. He endures because someone must, because the angel's dream cannot be allowed to fade. To speak the name Dante in the Imperium is to speak of myth-made flesh. He is the longest-serving chapter master in all the Adeptus Astartes, the Lord of Angels and the Warden of Baal. His armor is older than most civilizations. His mask of death, the death mask of Sanguinius, has become a symbol of both terror and hope. When he walks among his brothers, they fall silent, not out of fear but reverence, for he is more than a leader to them. He is the living proof that angels can still walk among men. Dante was not born in glory. He was born among the wasteland tribes of Baal Secundus, as all blood angels are. His youth was one of survival, scavenging among the ruins, fighting off mutants, praying to the Red Sun for deliverance. When the chapter's scouts found him, he was little more than a ghost, thin, hardened, and defiant. He passed every trial, every test of will and spirit, and was reborn as a son of Sanguinius. As a young warrior, Dante's brilliance was already evident. He fought with precision and restraint, his every motion a reflection of the grace his father had once embodied. But there was sorrow in his eyes, a deep, quiet understanding that the blood angels were dying slowly, cursed from within. He vowed even then to keep their legacy alive, no matter the cost. During his rise through the ranks, Dante fought in hundreds of campaigns. He earned renown for his leadership in the pacification of Tarsus Ultra, where he led a single company against an entire Orc empire and emerged victorious. He was instrumental in the Cretacean cleansing, fighting alongside the flesh-tearers, bridging the gap between the two volatile chapters. By the time he was appointed chapter master, his hair had turned silver, and his gaze carried the calm of a man who had seen too much and could still smile. The mask he wears is older than most stars. Forged in the aftermath of the siege of Terra, it is said to have been shaped from the death mask cast of Sanguinius himself. Its expression is serene, not wrathful or vengeful, but sorrowful. To look upon it is to feel both grief and peace, as if the angel were still mourning for mankind. When Dante dons it, his presence changes. Those around him feel a sense of stillness, as though time itself pauses to listen. The enemies of the Imperium, upon seeing it, often break, for they believe death itself has come for them, winged and merciful. The death mask is not merely armor, it is a relic of faith. Through it, the spirit of Sanguinius is said to flow. And perhaps that is why Dante still fights with such impossible endurance, because when he wears it, he is no longer only himself, he is the angel's will, walking once more upon the battlefield. As chapter master, Dante has carried the blood angels through centuries of despair. Under his rule, the chapter has survived crusades, inquisitorial purges, and the endless toll of the Tyrannid Wars. He has watched the Imperium decay from within, its faith hardened into bureaucracy, its light dimmed by fanaticism and fear. Through it all, he has remained unbroken. He commands not through fear or authority, but through reverence. His warriors follow him not because they must, but because they believe. It is said that Dante never rests. When others sleep, he walks the halls of the Arx Angelicum, visiting the tombs of the fallen. He speaks softly to their statues as though they still listen. He touches the names engraved upon the marble and remembers everyone. He carries their memory with him into every battle, every decision. To him, leadership is not privilege, it is penance. There are those who call him the Emperor's Angel of Death, for he has become one of the greatest champions of the Imperium. He has fought alongside chapter masters, inquisitors, even the Adeptus Custodes themselves. And when Guilliman returned from his 10,000-year slumber, it was Dante who greeted him upon Baal. The meeting of the last loyal son of the Emperor and the last of Sanguinius's true heirs was one of the most profound moments of the New Age. They stood together upon the ruins of the devastation of Baal, surrounded by the bones of the dead, and for the first time in 10 millennia, hope flickered anew. Guilliman named Dante regent of the Imperium Nihilus, the half of the galaxy cut off from the Emperor's light by the great warp rift known as the Cicatrix Maledictum. It is a title heavy beyond imagining, for Dante now commands not only his chapter, but hundreds of worlds, millions of souls. He bears this burden without complaint, though it weighs upon him like stone. In private, he prays that he will die before his faith breaks, but it never does. Dante's life is both miracle and curse. No space marine is meant to live as long as he has. He has outlived everyone he has ever loved, every comrade who ever laughed beside him. His heart has known centuries of loss. Each new generation that rises under his command reminds him of the brothers he buried before them. And still, he fights. He speaks little now, but when he does, his words carry the gravity of ages. He tells his warriors that duty is love made manifest, that to serve the Emperor and the Angel is not obedience but devotion. To those who doubt, he offers a simple truth. We are cursed, yes, but our curse is the memory of something beautiful, and that is worth dying for. Sometimes in the quiet between wars, Dante dreams. He dreams of Baal as it once was, before the radiation, before the sand. He dreams of a blue sky and a white-winged figure walking beside him. He dreams of peace, and when he wakes, he dons his mask and leads his sons into battle once more. Many believe Dante will not live much longer. He has grown weary, his body weakened by time despite the resilience of his gene seed. Yet even as his strength fades, his resolve burns brighter. He refuses to name a successor, for he knows the galaxy still needs him. He once told a sanguinary priest, "When I fall, let it be upon Baal's soil, beneath the shadow of my father's wings." To his chapter, Dante is not just a leader. He is a bridge between myth and reality. A man who has walked through 10,000 years of sorrow and emerged, still loyal, still pure. To see him fight is to see faith made manifest. To hear him speak is to remember that even angels can endure despair and remain kind. The Blood Angels do not speak of hope easily, for hope in the 41st millennium is a fragile thing. But when they look upon Dante, they see it. They see the living continuation of Sanguinius's grace. Older, wearier, but unbroken. They see that it is still possible to be noble, even in an age that has forgotten what nobility means. And so, the Lord of Angels continues. He commands fleets that stretch across the dark, leads crusades in the name of salvation, and kneels in prayer for every brother who falls. He knows that one day his time will end. He knows that the curse will claim him, as it claims all. But until that moment, he will fight, not because he must, but because he loves. In the long night of the Imperium, when stars fade and worlds die, there is still one figure who stands against the dark. A golden mask shining faintly in the void, wings of fire reflected in the smoke of battle. That light is Dante. That light is the last fragment of the angel's dream. In a galaxy where faith is often a weapon, the blood angels have turned it into art. Where others worship through conquest or dogma, they worship through beauty. Through the creation of things that remind them they are still human, still capable of grace, even when surrounded by death. Their faith is not loud. It does not demand obedience or burn heretics upon pyres. It whispers, it sings, it builds. To understand the soul of the blood angels is to walk the halls of the Arx Angelicum in silence, to hear the hum of prayer and the faint echo of chisels on stone. Everywhere within their fortress there is music, not the martial drums of war, but gentle hymns, low, sorrowful, hauntingly beautiful. Each note is a reminder that they fight not just to destroy, but to preserve. They are the guardians of beauty in a universe that has forgotten what that word means. Within the mountains of Baal Prime lie cathedrals carved from the rock itself. The blood angels call them the Crimson Chapels. Each one is dedicated to a moment in their history. The fall of Sanguinius, the devastation of Baal, the victory at Terra. But unlike the towering gilded churches of Terra, these chapels are intimate, almost humble. Their walls are lined not with gold, but with frescoes painted by the brothers themselves. Scenes of battle rendered not in glory, but in sorrow. 1,000 brushstrokes of memory. Each painting is both prayer and confession. The blood angels do not hire artisans, they are the artisans. Each warrior is trained not only in warfare, but in the disciplines of sculpture, painting, music, and poetry. They say that every hand that wields a chainsword must also learn to hold a brush. For in creation they find balance. In beauty they find resistance to the red thirst. And in remembering what their father loved, they remember who they are. The sanguinary priests often walk among the artists, blessing their work with drops of sacred blood. They say that the angel smiles upon every act of creation. When a new sculpture is unveiled, often a depiction of a fallen brother, the entire company gathers. No words are spoken. They stand in silence, hands upon their hearts, and let the stillness itself serve as prayer. The faith of the blood angels is built upon remembrance, not prophecy. They do not pray to the emperor as a distant god, but as the father of their father, a being whose light once touched the soul of Sanguinius. To them, the emperor's divinity is not in his power, but in his mercy. Their prayers are gentle things, not demands, but apologies, whispered promises to do better, to fight harder, to create beauty in his name. Among their many rites, none is more sacred than the Litany of Sanguinius. It is spoken before every battle, every ritual, every act of remembrance. It begins softly with the words, "We are the blood, and the blood remembers." The brothers repeat it in unison, voices low and melodic, as if afraid to break the air. The litany is not only a prayer, but an anchor, a reminder of who they are and why they fight. The final verse changes from battle to battle, depending on the chaplain who leads it. Sometimes it ends with defiance. For every drop we spill, the angel rises. Sometimes with sorrow, we bleed because he bled. And sometimes simply with love. Father, see us still. When the red thirst begins to rise, when the hunger claws at the edge of sanity, it is this litany that steadies their hearts. They recite it in their minds, over and over, until the world slows and the hunger recedes. It does not always work, but it is their way of holding back the storm for one more heartbeat. The blood angels are warriors, but they are also poets. Their journals, known as the Crimson Codices, are filled not with tactical data, but with verse. Each brother keeps one, a small book bound in red leather where he records his thoughts, his victories, and his regrets. When a warrior falls, his codex is placed upon the altar of remembrance, its pages read aloud by his surviving brothers. Some of these verses have survived for millennia, passed from one generation to the next, growing into the chapter's sacred texts. A typical entry might read, "The sky burned. I saw him in the smoke, wings bright, eyes kind. I struck down 10 foes and felt nothing. I prayed to feel again. Perhaps tomorrow I will." Others are longer, almost songs. Odes to lost worlds, to comrades turned to ash, to the fleeting beauty of sunrise over a battlefield. In the galaxy of the Imperium, where art is often forbidden or forgotten, these small acts of creation are revolutionary. They are defiance wrapped in grace. Throughout the fortress monastery, statues line the halls. Not of heroes or saints, but of the fallen. Each one carved by the hands of those who loved them. Some are majestic, others simple. A few are barely more than rough shapes, unfinished because the sculptor was called to war before it could be completed. But to the blood angels, none are less sacred than the others. They believe that every imperfect sculpture honors the perfection of the one who inspired it. There is one hall, the Gallery of Tears, that holds the likenesses of those lost to the Black Rage. Their faces are peaceful in stone, their expressions serene. It is said that when the wind passes through that hall, the statues seem to sigh, and the sound echoes like distant wings. The chaplains say it is the angel's breath comforting his lost sons. Among the greatest sculptors of the chapter was Brother Raphael of the Third Company. He was blind, his eyes burned out by plasma during the purge of Lithara, yet he continued to carve. When asked how he could see, he replied, "I remember their faces." His masterpiece, The Last Flight of Sanguinius, depicts the angel's death in perfect stillness. No battle, no fury, only peace. It stands today before the sarcophagus of their Primarch, a reminder that even in death, beauty can endure. For the blood angels, there is no contradiction between art and war. They are two halves of the same truth. Creation and destruction bound by blood. In battle, they see the rhythm of sculpture. Each strike a chisel, each motion deliberate. In art, they see the reflection of combat, the struggle, the discipline, the search for form within chaos. This is what separates them from all others. They do not fight merely to kill. They fight to create meaning in a universe that has none. The chaplains often say that the angel's legacy is not victory, but remembrance. That even if all the blood angels fall, their songs and statues will remain. Fragments of beauty scattered across the stars. And perhaps one day, when mankind has forgotten even its own name, someone will find those fragments and remember that once in the darkness, angels bled for them. In the endless night of the 41st millennium, faith has become a weapon, a tool of fear and obedience. But for the blood angels, faith remains something else entirely. It is not the denial of despair, but the acceptance of it. They do not pray because they believe everything will be saved. They pray because beauty deserves to be mourned. Every act of worship is a small rebellion against the void. Every song they sing, every statue they carve, every drop of blood they spill in reverence, all of it is their way of saying we remember. And memory to them is the highest form of holiness. They are the last dreamers of mankind, the final artists of a dying empire. Their world is ash, their blood is cursed, and their God is silent. But still they create, still they sing, still they fight with the grace of angels even as the stars fade around them. For the blood angels know the truth that the galaxy has forgotten. That beauty is not fragile. It is eternal. It endures through pain, through loss, through blood. And as long as one angel still lifts his brush, his pen, his sword, or his voice, Sanguinius's dream will never die. Among the oldest of their legends, there is one that is never spoken aloud except in whispers. It is said that before his death, Sanguinius saw the end of all things, that in his final breath he was granted a vision, not by the emperor nor by any god, but by the universe itself. He saw a great shadow consuming the stars. He saw the sons of mankind scattered across the void, fighting one last beautiful war. And he saw himself return, not as a living being, but as light. The chaplains call this the angel's prophecy. To some it is myth, to others it is destiny. It says that when the galaxy burns for the last time, when the emperor's throne finally grows cold, Sanguinius will rise again, not in flesh but in spirit. He will walk among his sons once more, gather them beneath his wings and lead them into the dawn of whatever comes next. For the blood angels, this prophecy is not a promise of salvation. It is a reminder, a whisper that all beauty is fleeting, and therefore sacred. Even now, the end seems near. The great rift has split the galaxy in two, an open wound bleeding madness into reality. Half the Imperium lies in shadow, cut off from the Emperor's light. Worlds burn without hope, stars vanish without sound, and through it all, the blood angels continue their vigil. Baal, once rebuilt, now orbits near the edge of the storm. Its skies glow with faint warp light, its deserts shimmer with strange colors. Some say the spirits of the fallen walk the sands at night. Warriors lost to the black rage, their shadows still fighting invisible foes. The sanguinary priests record strange omens in their sacred logs, dreams of wings unfurling across the sky. Statues that weep, tears of red. A heartbeat echoing through the catacombs beneath the Arx Angelicum. No one speaks it aloud, but the question lingers. Is the angel stirring? Commander Dante feels it most of all. In his quiet moments when the stars flicker above Baal's horizon, he says he can almost hear a voice. Soft, sorrowful, familiar. It calls his name. Sometimes he answers. Sometimes he simply listens. For millennia, scholars and priests have tried to understand the curse that binds the blood angels. Some believe it is punishment, others call it a test. But among the chapter itself, a different belief has taken root. They have begun to see the curse not as burden, but as covenant. The red thirst and the black rage are not merely flaws, they are the bloodlines linked to their father. The living proof that Sanguinius's spirit still flows through them. Every battle fury, every vision, every scream of remembered agony is a thread tying them back to him. When they succumb to the rage, they are not dying, they are returning. They are standing beside him again in that final moment, holding back the darkness with their own hands. It is not madness, it is communion. And so, when a brother falls to the black rage, the others no longer look away in shame. They kneel beside him, whispering, "Go to him, brother. Tell him we still fight." And then they let him go. Perhaps this is how faith survives, not by denying pain, but by sanctifying it. For the blood angels, their curse is not a mark of failure. It is proof of love that will not die. The galaxy will not be kind to them. It never has been. But the blood angels have never fought for kindness. They fight for beauty. For the idea that something pure can still exist, even if only for a heartbeat. They know that their gene seed is weakening, that their numbers dwindle, that even their successors face extinction. They know that their Primarch will never truly return, and still, they sing. Every night upon Baal, the choir of the dead performs its vigil. Thousands of voices rise in harmony, some human, some mechanical, some ancient beyond reckoning. Their song carries across the deserts, over the broken ruins, into the thin air where nothing should live. It is a hymn to the lost, a promise to the living, a prayer to the angel. They have sung it for 10,000 years. They will sing it until the stars go dark. If you were to stand upon Baal's surface and listen, you might not hear words, You would only hear wind, slow, soft, endless. But the blood angels believe that every note is heard somewhere beyond the veil. He hears them, and that is enough. There are stories told among the youngest neophytes, whispered by chaplains during the long voyage between stars. They say that one day the emperor will rise from his throne, that he will call his sons to him, all of them, even those lost to time and madness, and among them will come Sanguinius, radiant and whole. He will open his wings and light will flood the galaxy. The warp will burn away and the souls of the faithful will be free. There will be no more rage, no more thirst, no more death. Only peace. The older brothers do not deny this story, but they do not speak of it often. They know it for what it is, a dream, a fragile thing. But sometimes in the stillness before battle, they allow themselves to imagine it. They imagine the moment when they see him again, when they lay down their weapons and finally rest, when the endless war is over. And perhaps that is what keeps them fighting, not certainty but longing. The longing to see their father again, the longing to be whole. When the end comes, and it will not be sudden. The stars will fade slowly like candles burning low. Worlds will fall one by one, and in the silence that follows there will still be angels. Their wings will be torn, their armor cracked, their blood spent. But they will still be singing. For that is the legacy of Sanguinius, not victory but endurance, not perfection but persistence. He taught them that beauty is not fragile, that even in ruin it can shine brighter than any sun. And so the blood angels will fight to the very last breath, not because they believe they can win, but because they believe it matters. When the last angel falls, when Baal's sands are still, when the song finally ends, perhaps somewhere beyond the stars, a golden figure will rise once more. He will spread his wings and whisper, "You have done well, my sons." And the universe at last will be quiet. And so as the stars dim and the echoes fade, the story of the blood angels comes to rest. Their curse, their grace, their endless war, all of it drifts now into silence. But remember this, in every act of courage, in every dream that endures against despair, the spirit of Sanguinius still lives. He watches, he waits, and somewhere his sons still fight beneath crimson skies. If this tale of the angel and his sons has brought you a moment of calm or a spark of wonder among the stars, then rest here a little longer. There are more stories waiting in the dark, more heroes, more tragedies, more whispers from the galaxy that never sleeps. So if you'd like to dream with us again, to wander deeper into the myths of the 41st millennium, you can join this growing choir of night watchers by subscribing to the channel. Your presence keeps these stories alive, one soul at a time. Leave a comment below and tell me, which chapter, which Primarch, or which legend should we drift through next? And until we meet again, sleep well beneath the wings of the angel. The galaxy may burn, but tonight you are safe among the stars,